So I've always been fascinated with M. Night Shyamalan's work, even some of his lesser work, like The Happening. It's always a movie that I have found enjoyment out of, no matter how bad the acting and the script is. But The Sixth Sense was one of the first horror movies I ever watched, and it really terrified me. And from there on out, I was willing to give this guy a chance with anything. There was times I just couldn't, with stuff like The Last Airbender and After Earth. That stuff is terrible. But honestly, when it comes to The Village and even Lady in the Water to an extent, I think they get overly criticized. And that's sort of how I feel about the new Glass movie. So this is making me want to jump into what is his best 5 movies. Number 5, I'm going with the latest of his releases, which is Glass. I think Glass is a pretty well-made conclusion to this Unbreakable secret trilogy. I think, yet again, being overly criticized. I think a lot of the stuff was Shyamalan's plan all along. People saying that the movie has no no good direction in terms of its storytelling and where it's going, and its twists are just too convoluted. And I strongly disagree. I think this was his plan for quite a while now. Maybe not since 2000, but for a while now, I think this was his plan. I think it's well structured. It's got a lot of like crazy elements, and obviously James McAvoy just kills it, just like he did in Split. It's not his best movie. It's certainly flawed. There's a bit too many twists, but I think the majority of it works, and I honestly think that it is a pretty well-made conclusion. At number 4, I have Signs. Now, Signs, when I first saw Signs, I believe I was 13 or 14 years old, and it scared me the way that The Sixth Sense scared me. You know, now it doesn't hold up quite as well. The CGI is pretty shaky and not that great. But the first reveal of the alien in Signs legitimately made me jump. It scared me. And aside from that, I think it's a really well-paced and well-made and tense thriller. Really good acting across the board. Some really interesting religious elements about having faith and keeping the hope alive. Uh, yeah, it's got some dumb elements. Everybody always complains about the water thing, but so what? It's M. Night's thing. He likes to include water into his movies, and I've been accused of being an M. Night Shyamalan apologist, which is probably true to an extent. But I do think Signs is a really well-made movie that just has a few flaws. It's not a masterpiece, but some people think it's a masterpiece, and I get it, and I kind of get it when people complain about the movie as well. But I do think it is a well-made thriller. And number 3, I have Split. Just recently, I've come to find out that there's a big group of people that actually hate this movie. And I don't know how you can hate the movie. Sure, some of the storytelling elements you may not like, but like James McAvoy's performance alone, and even the cinematography alone, is worth watching and having respect for the movie. It's got some crazy elements to it, and honestly, the first time I watched this movie, I thought it was just an okay thriller with a really good performance. And then that stinger, in-credit stinger, revealing that this takes place in the Unbreakable universe, made the movie that came before it so much better. It made things make more sense. The fact that the Horde could really did evolve into this beast and could walk on walls and ceilings. It really made it really interesting, and it made me really excited for Glass. But yeah, Split. Yet again, this is a movie where people think that it's amazing and a borderline masterpiece, and there's some people that think that it's complete trash. And I think that's just Shyamalan's thing. Number 2, I have the highly underrated Unbreakable. I just rewatched this the other day before going into Glass, and it's really melancholy and slow, but really beautiful. A lot of really interesting elements. It, Shyamalan is not known for his subtlety, but I do think Unbreakable may be his most subtle movie. There's still a couple things about the movie that I don't think works. I think whenever David Dunn touches people, I think the way that he sees what the people have done, some of it's not so great, and I don't necessarily like the the closed captions at the end explaining like what they've done and what their lives are. I think that was kind of a cheap storytelling mechanism. But I do think this is an amazing superhero slash comic book movie with a twist that nobody saw coming in the year 2000. Yeah, everybody knows about it now, but then it was probably just as shocking as the twist in The Sixth Sense. I'm glad that the movie has gotten its due. Most people really love this movie, yet there's still people that I'm sure don't like it. But I love it. I think that it is the best out of the Unbreakable trilogy. And number one, I have, of course, The Sixth Sense, the movie that ruined my childhood for a little while. And it's funny how you see movies when you're a kid. I just saw this as a straight up horror movie when I was 9 years old. It terrified me. And I look at it now and I just think it's a really nice and really sad family drama. Just really dramatic elements. It makes me cry every time. I think Haley Joel Osment and Toni Collette are just incredible. Particularly Toni Collette in that last scene with her son Haley Joel Osment in the car when he reveals that he can see dead people. And I just think that's such an emotional moment. It's the end of their arc, and it's one of the best arc ending moments I've seen in cinema history. And yet again, Bruce Willis not sleepwalking through this movie. Sort of like in Unbreakable. He was great in Unbreakable too. But this is one of his better performances, I think, and I can understand how people decided to call Shyamalan the next Spielberg after this movie, because there's a lot of interesting and beautiful symbolism throughout the whole entire movie, and you kind of see the movie differently through a second watch. And watching it as a grown-up now, I really appreciate this movie, and I truly love it. So there's my list. It's not the most unique thing, and if I had to throw in some honorable mentions, I really like The Visit. Honestly, I thought The Visit was a really nice welcome to form for M. Night Shyamalan, and I like The Village. I do. I think that the twist isn't the greatest, but I think as a whole, it's a pretty good period piece drama. Yeah, but the rest of those movies are kind of shaky, if I'm being honest. But I tend to give Lady in the Water and The Happening somewhat of a pass because they're just so bonkers that I get some sort of entertainment out of them. But what would your list be? Would you agree with my list, or would you not agree with my list? Thank you for watching.